call this the, oh, never mind. All right. I was gonna make a joke. Okay. All right. So back to our cluster of pesukim, Mishlei 22, 17 through 21. Okay. So let's go over the translation again. And then our goal is to get the main ideas. So, hat oznacha ushma divrei chachamim, v'libacha tashis ladati. Incline your ear to the words of the wise, and your heart should firmly attend to my knowledge. Okay, and my knowledge is either lowercase m, or if it's Shlomo, or uppercase m if it's Hashem. Ki na'im ki sishrim b'vitnacha, because they will be pleasant when you guard them in your belly. Yikunu yachdav asvasacha, they will be established together on your lips. Lios barashem miftachacha, in order that your trust should be in Hashem. Hodaticha hayom avata, I have made them known to you today, even you. You know, I'm realizing now, by the way, this is not a definite thing, but I feel like the fact that it speaks about Hashem in the third person makes it less likely that the my is referring to Hashem if it's one sentence. Now, it's not impossible for there to be switches from first person to third person in things that have to do with Hashem, but that's you see in Tefillah or in Tehillim. I feel like in Mishlei, it'd be weird, right? In other words, it'd be weird if Hashem said, incline your ear to listen to the words of the Chachamim and pay attention to my words so that your trust should be in Hashem. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the my. Okay, we will restore it if we need to. All right, and there's different ways to parse this whole thing also. Okay, halo kasavti lecha shalishim b'moitzos b'da'as. Did I not write to you threefold with counsel and knowledge? Lahodiacha kusht imre emes lahashiv amarim emes l'sholchacha, to make known to you the veracity of true statements and to respond with true statements to your senders. Now I asked Fistel if sholchacha is singular or plural, and he said it could be both. Then I asked in my grammar, in my dicta Facebook group, and the answer I received from someone I trust, Rabbi Belsky, is that it's definitely plural. And I trust that for two more reasons over Fistel. One is because that's a group where people are so medactic about grammar that I saw a post elsewhere that said, if I ever want to make sure I get an answer to a question I ask on Reddit, I'll post the question and then I'll create a separate account and then post a wrong answer. And that'll make everyone comment, because people are far more eager to correct someone else than to give answers on their own. So I feel like the fact that that was the only answer I got and no one challenged it means that that's better. And then also, as of yet, I haven't seen anyone who says Sholchacha is singular, and certainly no one says it's about God. So I think we can assume that it is senders plural. Okay, yeah. All right, so that is that's that for the translation. And our main questions were, what is the practical implication of this entire cluster of pesukim, right? What's the takeaway? And what and why? What do we mean by why? Why do we need to be told this, maybe? Yeah, I guess, I don't know. And then we said that the two goals, you could characterize lots of things here as objectives, but the two things that are grammatically objectives with the infinitive is lios b'Hashem yiftachacha and lahodiacha kosh imre emes. That's why we said, what does Bitachon b'Hashem have to do with this? That was one goal. And then who are the senders to whom you're responding? Why do we care about addressing them? Okay. Second question is, what things is he talking about, right? What are these divrei chachamim, da'ati, na'im, tishrim b'vidnecha, yikonu yachdav asfasacha? What are the moitzos vadas, the kosh imre emes? What contents is he talking about? And then three, how exactly does he envision these statements finding their home in you? In other words, what are the first two pesukim saying? That he's describing a certain relationship between you and these words. What does that look like? And how is it achieved? I guess we'll add that. And how is this achieved? Okay, so Isaac sent me something yesterday as one move, which I will now ask him to say, which I thought was a good move. You want to say, Isaac?
Yeah, I actually want to read what I wrote.
Okay, yeah, I was going to suggest that you read it also because it was formulated very nicely.
Yeah. Okay, one sec. Just getting it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So my thought was that one of the many benefits of learning Mishlei is getting to see in depth how the world is designed with incredible wisdom. That knowledge is not just intellectual; it's a deep, I feel it in my bones type knowledge. That knowledge can give a person a certain sense of trust. Even if you don't know the specific way that things will turn out, you know what happens will make sense, even if you don't personally understand.
Okay, good. So let me read that back into the pesukim here. So incline your ear and listen to the words of Chachamim, which is going to be, I guess, Shlomo and other Chachamim, maybe and pay attention to my opinion, which is, it is funny. We didn't notice this as a minor question. It is funny saying, listen to Chachamim, but if this is Shlomo, he's saying, but then pay special attention to my words. I mean, he kind of earned that reputation of Chacham Mikol Adam, right? Or maybe it's because of your relationship to Shlomo, and in fact, now that I think about it, this is kind of what my way of listening to Chachamim is I feel like I try to listen to all Chachamim, but I feel like I hear it through how Shlomo HaMelech would, through a Shlomo HaMelech framework. That's just what happens when you learn Mishlei a lot. All right, and then ki na'im ki sishmerim b'vitnecha, it will be pleasant when you guard them in your belly. So the essence of Isaac's idea is the guarding in your belly, which is the difference between intellectual knowledge. So I'd say I differentiate three things, okay? Tell me if this is rings true, Isaac. Okay, so there's intellectual knowledge, which is just in the mind and not affecting the emotions. Then there's knowledge that's real to you, where it affects your emotions, but has not been internalized as part of the way that you see that you experience the world. Okay, in other words, a case will come up and you'll associate to Mishlei, and you can see it through Mishlei, through a Mishleic framework. But then there's a third level, which is in your belly, where Mishleic thinking and perceiving is like hardwired into your reactions to the world, and technically those last two are like in the same category of knowledge that's real to you, but I think it's like different levels. And deep in your belly is a different level than like it impacts your emotions, and the second level would not be sufficient for this type of bitachon. In other words, the second level, you're only going to be affected by Mishleic ideas if you know Mishleic ideas that correspond to the real world scenario. But if you get this in your bones, in your belly knowledge, you'll have a certain security that there is a Mishleic way to approach this, and there are principles of Chachma here, even if you have no clue about the particulars. Okay, and just to borrow an analogy from games, and I'm going to of course use Magic because that's the game I'm most familiar with, is like, you'll see, after you've honed your intuition a lot and you are faced with a very complicated situation in the game, there will be sometimes a feeling of like, okay, I know that there's a play here. I know that there's an out. I know that there's a way I can do this. I have no idea what it is yet, but I've faced enough scenarios like this where I know that there is a move here and a play here. So analogously in decision making, you might be confronted with like a very, very messy scenario with lots of factors that are unknown, and like you don't know any specific pesukim, you don't have any guidelines, but there's a certain security in Hashem that Hashem built the world on Chachma, and Mishlei has trained you in approaching the world through Chachma. So there's got to be a solution here, and that gives you a certain security. And I think what's being advertised here is the security, like not just the decision. In other words, the goal here is to have this trust in Hashem based on aligning your Chachma mind with Hashem's Chachma world, and like that's what he's advertising. Yeah, you might get the right decision, you might get the wrong decision, but going through the world with this type of security is the goal here. The Havmina is you don't? No, I'm just kidding. The Havmina is...
Sounds obvious.
Really? Okay, so chiddush to me. What's obvious?
Why is it?
I don't think of bitachon this way.
How do you do bitachon?
I think a lot of people think of bitachon as like, as something that has to do more with your relationship with Hashem directly, or Yedias Hashem, or
Hashgacha. That's not what I meant by obvious. I meant by aligning your knowledge with God's knowledge. You'll have more security. Isn't that obvious?
You could say that about any idea in Mishlei. But the nuances are the feel it in your bones knowledge that comes about through honing your intuition in Mishlei so much that becomes your default reaction to the world. To me, that's a subtle idea that is not obvious. And in fact, I think that if I had asked you before we learned the pasuk, tell me how to get bitachon in Hashem, I don't think any of us would have said this. I definitely would have said this. Maybe if you did, then it's not a chiddush to you. Now let's just, you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, a little weird question, but this feels like it will be a great introductory type of setup.
Okay, so fun fact, it is. Okay, there is a what do you call Rabbeinu Yonah? If you look at him on the pasuk about Bitachon, which is going to probably be on the next page. I don't know why my computer is so slow. Oh, low system resources may affect your audio quality. Tell me if my audio quality is affected, and I'll repeat myself. Which pasuk was about the Bitachon? Oh, 19, yeah. So Rabbeinu Yonah says, Lahodia Elios lecha ba'ad Hashem yiftacha hoditicha. Dati b'kvanasi b'chol hamusarayim asher arakti lecha. My intent, I think here he's saying Dati v'kvanasi, meaning my intent in all of these musarim that I have arranged for you. Lahagia mehem el habitachon is to arrive at bitachon. Ki kol hamidos hatos tzrichos lahagia ha'adam el hayira. All good midos are needed to bring a person to yiras Hashem. Okay, which is what Mishlei's goal is, right? Yiras Hashem. That's yiras Hashem reishi stas chacham masor evilim bazu, and az tavin yiras Hashem. Kasher amru zal ki tara ukedusha mevios liyiras ched. Okay, as Chazal say that tara and kedusha bring you to yiras ched. I don't know what that means. Bitachon min hamadregos alyonos asher yiras ched. And bitachon is one of the highest levels in yiras ched, which, by the way, I think fits into the way Isaac's learning it. That yiras ched is like fear of consequences, which starts off just as a very particularized, decision-making oriented, results-oriented thing. You advance to the level where you've internalized bitachon about how you relate to the whole world. So he says, this is a very important and wondrous idea. This is not the place to elaborate on it. Now, you would have expected the footnote to tell you where Rabbeinu Yonah does elaborate on it. The answer is in Mishlei 3:5, which is what I read to you yesterday. And he has a whole treatise on Bitachon there. And that's where he goes through all the levels of Bitachon, So the answer is, and again, this is in the introductory program of the Mishlei because it is a fundamental idea. And if you look at that whole Perek Gimel, then there are it's an elaboration on the steps to get to this Bitachon instead of here where he's like alluding to it and assuming you know it.
And then also for these pesukim being over here.
Yeah.
Also would have thought that feels like good. These feel like good introductory pesukim.
Yeah. So if you take Alter at his word that this is a new unit of 30 pesukim, then you can at least say this is the introduction to the pesukim which will follow, which is a theory we're going to have to test out for the remainder of the year, which is that, or however long it takes us to do this, which is do the pesukim that are going to follow this have a specific character? In light of this, we should expect them to aim at yiras Hashem, at bitachon Hashem as a focus, as opposed to the other pesukim which we've done, which haven't focused on that, Yeah. So can we take Isaac's idea and extend it to the hodaticha hayom af ata? I know I said we're not going to get the particulars, but it would just be nice. Why does he have to say, I have made it known to you today, even you? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, before you do that, right?
Yeah.
So it seems that you're saying that this very strong internalization of the concepts that Mishlei is presenting is then going to create bitachon in Hashem?
Yes. As opposed to what was the other option?
It is bitachon in Hashem.
Yeah, I think it's going to create bitachon in Hashem. I think that fits in with the words better. And I think also there are other levels of bitachon Hashem beyond this. So I would think that I think it would be a somewhat of a distortion if it said it is bitachon Hashem. Again, David, the real place for bitachon Hashem is in Tehillim, right? That's. I don't want to say the real place. Sorry, Shalom. The place that talks about the highest levels of Bitachon Hashem is in Tehillim, but this is the foundational Mishleic Bitachon Hashem.
And if a person is just acting Mishleically in order to, as it's kind of been set out, at least in terms of the way we've been learning, right, that it's understanding, not necessarily acting on the impulses and seeing later gain and responding to that.
Yeah.
Right? How does that in any way tie into right? Seemingly, you could have that and not have Bitachon.
Yeah, correct. And I think that's why the no, Rabbeinu didn't say this. I think that's why he's saying, well, Rabbeinu said the objective of all the Musar, the ultimate objective is the Bitachon. So, so the two levels I said before this, namely the relating to Mishlei only intellectually, and then relating to Mishlei where the particular idea is real to you. Those are still useful, but they're also fraught with insecurity. Okay, and let's talk about what the opposite of this is, right? What would be the person who has not yet reached this level? So if you just know the idea intellectually, so what's going to happen is you're going to get into the situation, and then you're going to remember a Mishleic idea, but your emotions will not be on board. So it'll be like an internal war between, like, your mind is saying, like, you're being irrational, this is an overreaction, like, just, but your emotions will be like panicking and like feeling like they should do something else. You might be able to restrain yourself, like, from making an impulsive move decision-making wise, but you're going to have like this inner conflict. Okay. And there's certainly insecurity because you're not in harmony with the situation and you're not in harmony with yourself. Okay. Second situation is the second level is you have the idea is impacting your emotions in that particular area. The analogy that Shlomo uses elsewhere is he says that kiner mitzvah v'torah or, okay. And if you apply, most people apply that to Torah and mitzvos, shockingly, right? But if you take that in a Mishleic sense, a particular pasuk is like a ner, okay, in that it illuminates a limited area and it illuminates in front of you, right? But he says later on, I don't know if it's the same paragraph, that for tzaddikim, then it's like the sun rising and getting to midday, where it illuminates the entire landscape. And like you don't need a particular pasuk, So the second level with the ner is that I'm in the situation, but now I know a Mishlei idea and it sheds light on this particular situation and I can operate here. But there still is insecurity lurking in the periphery because I only have the solution to this particular case, but what if something else happens, or like, what about all the areas of life that I haven't learned Mishlei for? So that would be the person that you're describing, which is that they've been working on their Mishlei and they are slowly like, updating the particular apps in terms of how they like, relate to certain areas of life, but they don't have like a foundation where they relate to everything known and unknown, controllable and uncontrollable like this. And then this highest level is the net Mishleic knowledge you get results in this fundamental security where even though you don't know the particular decision to make and you don't know what the factors are, you are secure that there is chachma here and things don't just happen arbitrarily and that there can be a road forward to like align yourself with. And that's like the bitachon. That's what you feel the bitachon. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm trying to, but let me know. Okay, sure. Okay, so why does he have to tell you hodaticha hayom af ata? I think I can answer the af ata. Hayom, I'm not sure about. Anyone have any ideas for either?
Maybe it means like what's the time?
That is hodaticha hayom af ata. I have made known to you today, even you. What's the havmina of even you?
But you already know these things and have internalized it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I was thinking the opposite. That maybe someone on a higher level could get this, but not me. Like I'm incapable of it. Yeah.
I was going to answer today. I'm going to borrow what we did with Robbie a couple of nights ago.
Yeah.
Like I think the cousin said like Hayom Hazeh.
Yeah.
Like today should, like the Rashi says, and that should be like it should be
new to you
like every day.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah. I was thinking similar lines for that also. That you should relate to Mishlei. Okay, actually, this is actually a good point.
And the reason why.
Yeah.
And what we said was because like the like the Torah and mitzvahs, if you relate it in a qualitative framework, right? Your experience with it will not be the same every day.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, I think that fits in very well with Mishlei because you can't relate. Okay, I'll say a mistake, but a pardonable developmental mistake that my high school students used to make with Mishlei is, we'll go over a pasuk and then they'll learn an idea, and they will treat that idea A as like the only idea in the pasuk, and B as a static phenomenon. Like that when I'm in this situation, I plug this idea into the decision-making machine. In reality, we know that these ideas are not the only ideas in Mishlei, right? We know that you can come up with many ideas, as the meforshim say, and as we see from our experience. And we know that depending on where you are in your development and where you are in life, then the pasuk will play itself out in a different way. So the pasuk has to be like dynamic and fluid in your mind in order for it to have this effect. So you have to relate to it as a hayom phenomenon, like you're saying from that famous Rashi. Yeah. Okay. Af ata, I want to hear what you're going to say, what you were going on this, Sean, but just to spell it, what I was going to say is I do think that many times when we're talking about reaching the highest levels, they do seem unreachable. And it is possible, I think, to say that in the upper levels of Bitachon and Tehillim, not everyone reaches that. And I'm saying this kind of on the basis of Avram ben Rambam in his essay on Bitachon in Hamas Biglo of Hashem, where he says like the highest level of Bitachon is like Eliyahu Navi hiding out in a cave and like being fed by God every day. Like where he's totally not worried about like finding his food and stuff. And like the Hashgacha is like responding to his every need, Magin Abraham type of Bitachon. I don't think it would be true to say af ata for that kind of bitachon, but this type of bitachon is within the reach of every single person because Mishlei is written for everybody, and pesi na'ar chacham navon, that's all within the reasonable reach of human beings. So that's why I'd say he has to say af ata, because it's very easy to like dismiss this, And the danger is if you dismiss this and say I can't reach that level, then you will not. That's gonna when you rule out the ultimate objective that is within your reach, it'll change the way you relate to what you're doing right now. In other words, like if you say there's no way I can get to this bitachon, I'm just going to focus on getting individual Mishlei ideas, I think that's going to stunt the way that these Mishlei ideas lodge in you, because you're gonna attach yourself to this lower bar. Whereas if you say like, no, this is within my reach, maybe not today, maybe not in a year or 10 years, but that is the destination. I think then like that bitachon will build because you're not holding yourself back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the reason why I'm going the opposite direction is because I'm putting it out on the earlier clause.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that I've made known to you today this bitachon idea.
Yeah.
I've made known to you these ideas because even you who thinks that you're perfected within all of these ideas, you need the reminder just as much.
Okay. All right, I hear the reading. Yeah, I hear the reading. Let's now look at the next two pesukim and then see if that sheds light on which way to read it. Okay, so now we get to this part, which Isaac, you were not taking a stance on the last two pesukim, right? No, okay. All right, yeah, okay. So halok savti l'cha shalishim b'moed tosvadas. Now we translated this as threefold. All the meforshim I looked at this morning said shalish. Define shalish as like noble ideas. Okay, from the word shalish of like, shalish is like either a chief or like the highest rank of military officer. So we don't have to really look at this as the number 3. Okay, so did I not write for you noble ideas with counsel and knowledge to make known to you the veracity of true statements, to respond with true statements to your senders? Now, the question is, what is this saying? So to me, the first part of this is supports my reading of even you, which is that like, Shlomo's talking to a person who doesn't think he can reach the highest levels. And Shlomo's saying, what do you mean? I wrote this for you for this purpose, And I also think that maybe you can tie the Kosht Imre Emes to what Isaac was saying about the deeper level of knowledge, which is, this is not just Lahodiacha Imre Emes, to teach you words of truth, but to teach you the Kosht Imre Emes, the reality of the words of truth. In other words, like to make it real to you in this way that we've described earlier. I don't know what the last part is saying. Lahashiv amarim emes l'sholchacha, to respond with true statements to your senders. And by the way, remember we saw in the art scroll that said, no, not the art scroll. Oh, Living Nach says to teach you the veracity of truthful words, that you may answer words of truth to those who lead you astray. So I was wondering where they got that from. So they got that from the Metzudas Tzion, who says, L'sholchacha inyan tarud v'gerushin kamo hein yishalach ish. So he learns senders as those who cast you out or drive you away, kind of like sending Adam out of Gan Eden, like kicking him out. So he's learning it as not your senders, your
exilers.
Yeah, Mitsudos, your exilers, or those who attempt to throw you off. Okay, so, and also I would say respond with, lahashiv is usually to respond with, but you could also say to respond with true statements or to come back with, not making it a verbal response. Like this might be an action, like to react with or to respond with.
All right. Does that make it easier?
I think that makes it easier to work with. Yeah. So the question is, why does he need all of this? I mean, to me, the way I'm the upside in the way I'm reading it now is it supports the even you, but the downside is this is all contained within the even you. Like it sounds like just like adding more. Like, no, this is why I wrote this for you. Yeah. You gonna say something?
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe it's for the skeptic.
For the skeptic.
Maybe it's like, all right, yeah, maybe the few pesukim is great,
fantastic,
but he needs more convincing.
Yeah. So
it's hitting it's almost like, look, to me, it's like, look, I wrote this even for a child to understand. Like, you'll be any worse than a child. Okay, so I actually that inspired a way to read it the way that Sean is reading it, which I'm going to borrow from the Rambam. The Pesach is going through Perek Chelek now. Is that so? Spoiler alert. I'm going to read the last paragraph. So after Perek Chelek, which is the Rambam's Hagdama with all the Ikariim and like all these fundamental ideas about Lishma and Ovid Me'ava and all this other stuff. So at the very end, he says like this. Where is this? Okay, he says, "Ukvar he'arachti b'dvarim ma'od." I have already spent I've gone on at length about these ideas. V'yatzasi mi'inyan chiburai, and I've departed from the purpose of my treatise, because this is a Pirush Mishnayos, right? It's not a philosophy book. Ella shasisi came, but I did this. Lefisha ra'isi shezet to'elos be'emuna lefisha ani asafti lecha dvarim rabim mo'ilim hamufuzraim b'chiburim rabim mevdolim. Okay, I saw that this is important for emuna, and I've gathered many ideas that are scattered everywhere. Hayabehem neushar and hayabehem neushar. You're going to be happy with these. Okay, now he says like this: v'chazor al devarai ela pa'amim rabos. You should go over and do chazara on my words many times. V'hisbonin behem heitev, and contemplate them very well. V'im tishle osach machshavtacha, if you are seduced by your thoughts or tricked by your thoughts to think shekavar hevanta inyana mipam achas o eser, if your thoughts seduce you to think that you have already understood these ideas from the first time you've read it or the 10th time you've read it, Hashem yodea shebesheker hishalta osach. God knows that your intellect. God knows that you have been deceived. Okay, that you're deceiving yourself. I wonder if that's how the Rambam feels right now.
I know, right? The al tamaherbo, don't be quick in reading this. Lefisha ani lo kasav tiv echniz damin. I didn't just write as these ideas occurred to me. Okay. Ella achar his bonus v'yishuv hadas v'iyun b'deus nechonos ubilti nechonos. I wrote this after much contemplation and deliberation and great study of true ideas and false ideas. Okay, so it's kind of like an ouch to anyone who like says, "Oh yeah, I've learned Perek Chelek before." Well, the Rambam is saying, "Look, when I wrote this, I thought about it in depth. I went over it many times. I didn't write it as it came to me, and I analyzed it in depth. And you're telling me that your reading, which didn't even get into what my writing was, that you got it after that. You clearly are just being seduced by your own yetzer, So that's like the vibe I'm getting from this based on Sean's reading, which is you guy who think that you know all of this and you've mastered it already. No, I've written these for you, with counsel and das and like all the stuff to make known. I don't know how exactly how the last part fits in, but yeah. Let me summarize what we got so far. Okay. Yeah. So this is based on Isaac, but then we developed it. So there are 3 ways to relate to Mishlei.
Way number one is you understand the idea intellectually, but it doesn't impact your emotions at all. Way number two is you understand the idea intellectually and it impacts your emotions in that particular area of decision-making. But in other areas, you still don't have the ideas or it's not real to you. The highest level is where you've internalized the Mishleic way of relating to the world so much that in every area in your life, you have this security, this bitachon, this trust that there is a Mishleic way to go about things, and you don't feel insecure or frightened. You know, you can rely on the fact that Mishlei has shown you that there's chachma in every area, and you have the capacity to deal with it. So, like I was saying, in the realm of games, but you could probably plug this into like whatever into basketball or whatever. Like, there's a certain thing where you don't know what the correct play is, but you know that there is a correct play. And you feel confident that like, okay, I'm going to work it out. I'm going to be able to find it out. And there's a certain trust and calmness that comes with that level. So that's what he's saying. The ultimate goal of Mishlei is not just to teach you intellectual ideas, not just to teach you guidance in this particular area, but to instill with you a Mishleic trust in God, where like any area you go into, you're going to know that there's a Mishleic way of operating here. Okay. Then and then he says, I've made it known to you today, even you. And right now we're working out a disagreement between, or two approaches between me and Sean, which is, I think he's saying even you, because you think to yourself, I can't get that level. And he's saying, no, even you, everyone can get this level. Sean's saying he's talking to someone who thinks he already has mastered Mishlei. And he's saying, no. You think you mastered it? No, you haven't mastered it. Even you need to go through this. And yeah, right. And so we're trying to figure out these last pesukim. And I was just trying to support Sean's approach by saying that the Rambam criticizes people who think that they got what the Rambam said after reading it once or 10 times. And he says, no, I didn't write this thoughtlessly. You shouldn't learn it thoughtlessly. Go over it again and again and again. And so according to, I'm not speaking for you, but I'm speaking like on behalf of your approach, that according to Sean's reading, Shlomo is emphasizing, look, I wrote this with lots and lots of thought. And in order to get this benefit, you can't just like, skim it over. You have to like go through it like in depth. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, right, if you read even you, the way in which I'm reading it, so then, right, it's kind of like, did I not write to this like for you? Like, yeah. How can you sit by it and not accept this as something that I wrote for you because you think that you've already gotten it? I did.
Okay, right. In other words, I wouldn't have written this for you if you would have already gotten it, in some other way. Yeah. And according to the way I'm reading it, which I said earlier, but I just want to plug in pesukim here, is like, let's say you are a pesi, right? A simpleton or a na'ar or a youth, right? And you tell yourself, I can't get to that level. Shlomo is going to sit you down and open to the beginning of Mishlei and say, I wrote this for the Pesi and the Nar. I wrote this for you. And if this is my goal, I know that you can achieve it. Like anyone can achieve this goal. So I think it works out both ways. Yeah. I don't know which one makes more sense, but I think they're both good ideas. Okay.
Okay. So then in terms of the senders.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The senders.
So can we perhaps say that it's doubt, right? That doubt kind of pushes you to exile yourself from your ideas and from what you truly believe. Because when people start to doubt something, then they like, well, maybe I should. And then that's when it all goes down.
Yeah. So we do have a nice amount of liberty with how we interpret this, because it does seem to be a metaphor, right? To return words of truth to their senders. I don't think, nothing in what we've said has indicated that we're talking about like human beings who are sending you to do stuff. So senders, I think we have wiggle room to say that it's like, internal senders. And and you're saying you're going with Mitsuda's interpretation that is people who are like trying to throw you off, and it's your own internal doubts and stuff. Yeah, doesn't that fit in better with my approach? Because your person is overconfident, right? In other words, the way I'm saying it is that these senders, if we're taking Mitsuda's, is like what encroaches when you don't have the bitachon. Like there are going to be factors that are going to like throw me off and cast me out from without or from within. And like and then Shlomo saying like I'm trying to like protect you from those guys, internal or external. Like your approach lends itself much more to senders being like extensions of this ego feeling that I've already gotten.
It depends whether or not this person is aware of their doubts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if a person is confident that a person who is confident but hasn't mastered this.
Yeah.
So when they're looking back on their life, they're like, I don't doubt things.
Yeah.
So it's more of an ignorance of their doubts.
Yeah.
So he's
right.
I think it could still work, but I
okay. Yeah. I hear that also. Yeah. Either way, it is difficult to me. I'm not comfortable with either interpretation of senders. I want to mention one point though, also just because I think I did not record what I'm about to say, which is Chaim Zifkin 2 days ago. I think 2 days ago said, or I guess expressed, he didn't know that I didn't prepare for this, right? That I usually don't prepare for this. And I mentioned that like the whole first half of the first year in yeshiva, I had prepared every pasuk that I taught with Ken. And then Isaac and Zev said that they gain more from the Mishlei if I don't prepare it, because then we get to like work it out together and then you can see the thought process and stuff. So I definitely, part of what allows me to be able to do that is that I have gotten to the point in Mishlei where I wouldn't say that I have this level of bitachon on the in your bones level, but I definitely have the bitachon in the I'm able to get an idea from Mishlei, level. And there's that quote that I had that I'm quoting a lot last year from the Lion Tracker, like the motto of the Safari Guide is I have no idea where we're going, but I know exactly how to get there, and that's kind of like how I feel when it comes to learning Mishlei is like, I don't know. Like when we started this, I have no idea where this is going to go, but I know what a good Mishlei idea looks like when I see it, and like I can like be on the track, And I do think that is a first step to being able to get this in the way that Isaac is saying, like to be able to internalize it. You have to be able to, let's put it this way, if you can't see the potential, if you can't have the bitachon that there are Mishlei ideas and Mishlei pesukim, you're not going to have that bitachon about life situations, so you have to start off by like being fluent enough in Mishlei where you can like take a pasuk that seems completely confusing and be like, okay, I know there's an idea here, and like have the trust that you're going to find a Mishleic idea, and then you can extend it outwards into life. Okay, I was going to do the Meiri, but because we've developed this so much, let's just see if there's anything that we haven't explained. And I think the part we haven't explained is this part.
Can I quickly add another
sure
interpretation for senders?
Yeah.
What if it's also like, I think it could also be peer pressure, right? That people, right? You think that you're really clear on these ideas, and that you're going to always act Mishleically, but then when the crowd's going a certain way, so then you're going to be going along with
it. So I'm going to bring support to you from Yirmiyahu. Let's see if I'm right. No. Hold on a second. Yeah. Yirmiyahu 17:5. Ko amar Hashem, thus says Hashem, Arur hagever asher yiftach ba'adam v'sam basar zro'o umin Hashem yasur libo. It says Hashem, cursed is the man who places his trust in human beings, v'sam basar zro'o, and literally makes flesh his might, umin Hashem yasur libo, and turns his heart away from Hashem. V'haya ke'arar ba'arava, he'll be like a tree in a wilderness. V'lo yireh ki yavo tov, he will not see when the good comes. V'shachan charerim bamidbar, eretz malecha v'lo seishev, something in the wilderness, in a salty land that's not settled. Okay. Baruch hagever asher yiftach b'Hashem, v'haya Hashem yiftacho. But blessed is the man who trusts in Hashem, and Hashem is his security. V'haya ke'etz shasu al mayim, he will be like a tree firmly planted next to the water. V'al yuval yishalach sharashav, and it will send forth his roots. V'lo yireh ki yavochom, and he will not see. I think it should be, Yare makes more sense to me, but whatever. When the heat comes, V'haya alehu ra'anan, and his leaf will be verdant green. Uvishnas batoras lo yidag, he will not worry in a time of drought. V'lo yamish me'asos peri, and he will not refrain from giving forth fruits. So you see from here, this is not only from here, but trust in God and trust in man are the two opposites, right? So to the extent that you are lacking this bitachon in Hashem, then your security is going to come from man. And typically it's going to come more from peers than from yourself. Okay. Because even though people are egotistical, then they are more influenced by what the crowd is doing. And so that's going to be your biggest threat, is other people trying to like get you off of the path of this bitachon. And to the other extreme, the more you trust in your chachma and in your Mishleic bitachon, so then the less prone you will be to like caring about what other people, fine, they think that that's the right way, but like I know that that's just like a dumb way to go, you know. Again, movie recommendation, The Big Short, excellent movie about about the housing crisis, and basically it's the best depiction that I've seen of Mishleic bitachon, and it's also the best movie I've seen about what it must have been like for Yirmiyahu Hanavi when no one believed him that the Beis Mikdash is going to be destroyed and Klal Yisrael is going to be exiled. The movie is about, I think it's like 5 or 6 people who saw the economy crash coming through different ways. And they knew, based on their knowledge of like economics and stuff, they knew that basically the end of the world is coming in terms of like the finance, and that like things that people thought were immutable institutions are going to like come crashing down. And everyone doubted them. And they even began to doubt themselves because everyone was saying that they're wrong, you know, but they stuck with their chachma, and they were right. And they ended up like either making a lot of money or saving a lot of money, you know, from being lost, that they would have like lost in the same way everyone else did. Great depiction. And it's one of these things where like, you know, the reason why movies are important to watch, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Mortimer Adler, is that, you know, we know from Mishlei that like what makes things real to you is not just ideas, but experience, right? Like you have to experience it. Movies are, a well-done movie is vicarious experience. You can have experiences without having them. You know, if you watch a movie that impacts you emotionally, then you can go through stuff and like the ideas can affect you. But the thing is you need it to be Mishleian movies. You need to have like an awareness of the ideas in order for it to be made real to you. Otherwise, it's just going to be the emotional impact of the movie, and it's just going to like, you know, sit there or like take on its own life, you know? So I think that's a good way to say it. Okay, in the last like 3 minutes, can we get an interpretation of, this is the one puzzle we haven't talked about. Oh, sorry. We talked about the binnacha. We haven't explained ki na'im, they will be pleasant. And then yikonu yachdav al safasacha, they will be firmly established on your lips.
Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious after what we said.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, pleasant just means like you'll, you know, there's a certain sense of like certain sense of easement or no, a certain sense of like peacefulness. Yeah, when you have them.
So one way to take it is it's the result of the ideas. You're saying that's what makes them pleasant, because the ideas bring this pleasantness into your life.
Yeah.
Right. So another, you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that until they're in your belly, they're not going to be pleasant, right? That person, right, when they have the idea, but then the emotions are pushing them the other way, they're going to be internally in conflict.
Okay.
Until there's that reconciliation. So then these ideas aren't going to be pleasant. So you should have that recognition that just because it's unpleasant in this intellectual first stage of it, doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep pushing to. Okay,
that's good also, right? So that's speaking to the disharmony that I said that you are going to have until you reach this level of bitachon.
Yeah, well, that's where you are going to be pleasant.
So it is interesting. We didn't have time to go through it, but the Meiri goes through the whole thing about whether the Kid Na'im is going back on a description of the Divrei Chachamim, or if it's part of the second pasuk, which is that they will be pleasant when they go into your belly.
So how do you translate it? Because they will be pleasant when you go into your belly.
So that's the second way, but the other way the Meiri translates it is like this. And your heart firmly attend to my knowledge inclining your listen to the words of the wise, because they are pleasant. You know, in other words, it's like an interjection, like, you know, so if you take it that way, so I have an interpretation for that way, which is, okay, so there's a thing where like, you know, like Rav Pesach often says about the beauty of a svara, right? That just because a svara is beautiful doesn't mean it's true. And there are different kinds of beauty. There's the beauty of like the elegance and simplicity. And then there's the beauty of like, look at this creative edifice that I've created that like answers all the, you know, And in other words, you can't just say if it's beautiful, then it's true. Okay. So similarly, in Mishlei, there's a certain Mishleic beauty where the idea explains the pasuk, but it also rings true as being about reality. And there's a lot of pesukim in Mishlei where like people will give like nice ideas, but it doesn't actually like ring true in experience. That's why we always have to ask that question: is it actually true? Like, do we see this playing out in real life? So if you read this as a qualification of Divrei Chachamim, it's saying that in order for it to develop this bitachon, you have to it has to meet this level of like pleasantness and beauty. We can elaborate on that more, but we have to stop soon. And then I will add one more point here. Rabbeinu Yonah says about Yikonu Yachtav Al Svasecha. I'm just going to read this from the packet. He says that in order for this to work, he says, Yikonu Yachtav Al Svasecha, let them be firmly established on your lips together. Pentish Kachem, lest you forget them. Ki mivta ha'chachma b'sfasayim tamid, expressing chachma with your lips constantly, v'hiyos ha'dvarim shigurim al halashon, and making it firm in your mouth, sibas hazichronos, will make you remember them. So in other words, it's not even enough to learn Mishlei correctly. You have to be constantly talking about Mishleic ideas and reviewing them verbally in order for it to be able to have this effect on you.
Yeah, talk about stuff a lot in the car.
Okay, good. But even also like, even let's say like the conversations we have where like we talk about how to apply stuff Mishlei to real life, or like when we have Mishlei moments and we talk about like how it played out, telling it over to other people, the more you talk about it, the more it's gonna become real to you. Okay, good. We got a lot out of this paragraph. Okay, I'm happy about that. All right. Let's go. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.